In one of the biggest events ever made in Minecraft, I put 100 players to the ultimate test and challenged them to dig to the bottom of 5 increasingly difficult levels for a top secret prize. From dark and damp swamplands to spider-infested abandoned towns and even a mysterious blazing hot level I can't spoil yet, players will have to do everything they can just to survive. Also, the stakes were high, as if players died, they were out of the race for good. Will they narrowly succeed and get to the void just in time, or will the dangers that lurk in these horrifying caves wipe them all out? Watch until the end to find out. I present to you 100 players dig to the void in Minecraft. Remember, if you want to participate in videos like this one, make sure to join my Discord server and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. Also, special thanks to the people who made this all possible. Make sure to check out my amazing builders MJ and BuildBank for their insane work on this project. Links in the description. The race had begun with all 100 players teleported straight to the top of the map and frantically digging to try and get ahead of the others for a head start. After a very short while of tunneling down, a few different groups of players started finding small flooded caverns, whilst others were desperately trying to find any openings they could. A lot of them realized that it would be significantly slower to attempt digging straight down forever due to difficulties they were facing, and that they needed to find structures for better tools and food as soon as possible, or they'd never even make it to the next level. The pressure was now on, and some players started changing their strategies and instead of just digging down, digging all around them, as they saw other players making advancements and fast progress.
Yeah, people have already gotten down there, becoming like mobs and stuff.
Players also knew that a lot of the loot scattered across the map would not respawn, and so they needed to rush to get it before the others. Luckily, a handful of groups like the one led by WQZO managed to finally hit some openings with an array of resources they needed, such as trees for wood and a few chests. They knew that they couldn't take this minor victory for granted though, and kept digging forwards after collecting everything they could, as everyone wanted to reach the next level first.
Does anybody have wood on them over here that I can use? Need one.
The swamp was also beginning to claim some lives, mostly due to drowning and full damage, and some even due to being annoyed to death by their teammates.
I'm a great guy, you know. Can we be friends? Friends! Ah! I'm sinking! I'm sinking!
This showed many players just how vicious some of these locations were, and even more so because this was only the first and least dangerous level out of everything they were about to face. After some more coordinated searching, a lot of the players were beginning to realize that this level wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface, as they found traces of life in the vast rivers that led them to believe that something big was just under their noses. Most of the players decided to continue digging straight down in the hopes of reaching the next level as quickly as possible, but others decided to gamble and follow the rivers in the caves they found in the hopes of finding great treasures. They were eventually met with a massive uninhabited swamp town with all kinds of resources left over, such as food, tools, and even boats that they could use to better traverse the rivers and even future levels. One question stuck out in their mind though: why was this town left to ruin in the first place, and what were its previous residents so afraid of that they would leave everything behind?
Yo, there's literally no.
Let's keep heading down. I want to be.
Yeah, I agree with that point.
Just as word was starting to spread that there were much more useful structures laying around than players had initially thought, the players who decided to dig down from earlier were making massive headway, even though they had much worse loot than the others who had taken their time. Holy and OBXX were just two examples of players who had undertaken the more challenging route, but they were eventually rewarded along with many other players as they were directly teleported to the next level just before their pickaxes broke.
Well, I was so sad that you got cancelled because, like, I was actually so stacked up. And now this time, my luck is out.
Yeah, I know, we haven't found anything. Wood.
The question was now whether these players would last in even tougher environments with minimal loot or succumb to what awaited them next. Would the players further up in the swamps also be able to catch up in time and kill these weaker players with their newfound gear? Let's find out in level 2. Players Players were immediately split between two sides at this point, as some like OBXX made it straight into even deeper caves than before with little knowledge on what was coming next, whilst others were still exploring level 1. Neither side was necessarily winning over the other though, as players taking their time in level 1 were much more geared, whilst the players already in level 2 were much less geared, but had the asset of time on their hands. Seeing as a lot of the further ahead players were already grouped up, they decided to break through the caves they found themselves in together, although a lot of them also made sure to make it crystal clear to each other that they weren't in this for friends, but instead glory.
Hello.
Hello, who are you? Oh,
Check.
Tex.
Once they got out of the cramped caverns, the players were amazed by what they found. A massive cave structure with amethyst crystals glowing everywhere and warped mushrooms covering the cold stone walls. What really piqued their interest though was a large stone statue right in the middle of it all, holding up what looked to be a gateway to an ancient civilization of sorts. Players like WQZO and J-Man were among the first to climb atop the gigantic oddity, although others were quickly following in their footsteps, and thus they knew that speed was of the ultimate essence. As players traveled further and further into the barren tunnels, they started noticing more and more signs of life, such as red carpets and treasure troves strewn about, and slowly started to realize that they would need to exercise extreme caution in case any defenders remained.
Hey, the silverfish? There be silverfish down here?
There's a lot of silverfish.
There's silverfish? Not
I got
my
this
problem.
Yo!
The grace period was also about halfway done by this point, and everyone knew that a bloodbath was on its way, adding an intense amount of pressure to this already ferocious race. Additional crews with significantly better gear than the earlier explorers, such as the one led by Mr. Mello, were hot on their heels as they wanted their fair share of level 2's loot, and weren't afraid of using their shiny new tools to accomplish their goals. Not oblivious to the potential dangers that awaited them, WQZO, J-Man, and a new brave explorer, Marvin Man, pushed forwards knowing full well that going back would only lead them to getting outpaced and outmatched. As they got further and further, a large opening revealed itself at the end of the narrow corridor, and the trio were dumbfounded at what they saw. Colossal statues of old knights and crumbled buildings painted this former city to be an eerie landscape lost to time, and the three explorers were immediately met with hordes of silverfish that had already taken over what was left of it.
They're coming. Hello.
Yo, this is dangerous. We're playing a risky game.
Run.
The crew made a run for it up to the higher ground inside the city's chapel where the silverfish could no longer reach them, and began looting everything they could. Blood smeared the grounds, and WQZO could hear the ghostly cries of warriors in the distance, speaking volumes to the horror that this place must have undergone in its final moments. Other groups were also quickly gaining on them as they heard loud footsteps approaching their location, and they now had a choice: either stay and risk the grace period ending, or make a run for it to the next level with what they had already acquired. There were 5 minutes left on the clock before everyone would have the freedom to kill whoever they want, and to make things even worse, Marvin had gone missing from the group, but WQZO decided that enough was enough and didn't want to lose his staggering lead in the race so far, and thus he decided to dig to the next level alone. J-Man kept searching for Marvin all the while, but he was simply nowhere to be found, and eventually he too made his way toward the next level, closing the chapter on this group's teamwork once and for all. And just as they scattered, Mello's group barged through the front gates of the Amethyst City, and the grace period was officially announced to have ended, leading to chaos and anarchy across the server.
So we're gonna have to figure out a way out of this.
Okay, I think we should just start digging.
WQZO sighed in relief as he had just narrowly escaped a tragic end, and as he dug deeper and deeper into the stone layer underneath the city, a portal opened, taking him directly to level 3, along with a few other players who would not be happy to see anyone else getting in their way. This level begun with a lot more caution as players slowly made their way through the top layers of stone, eventually emerging into a massive blanket of webs. Larger groups were starting to form by this point as well, like the one headed by El Deathly due to the end of the grace period, which players knew could easily spell their end if they went solo. Well, players except for WQZO, who was more interested in sneaking past everyone else.
Pray I can outrun them.
Through the webs, players could spot a glimpse of something massive, something that wasn't like anything else they had seen up until now. A lot of them knew that it was time to pick up the pace so they didn't miss out on any of the loot, and so they broke through the webs and quickly fell into the abyss below. Definitely was one of the first to hit the ground while still in the safety of the boat he had looted earlier in level 1, and he and his squad quickly got to work on seeing what nearby structures had to offer. In a stroke of luck or misfortune depending on the way you look at it, his entire crew landed just outside the main capital castle of a seemingly ancient medieval city with cobwebs and bloodthirsty spiders everywhere. They were quickly swarmed and outnumbered by dozens of spiders inside, and players like Avian had to quickly retreat due to their low health and weak armor, showing that this level was a lot more dangerous than the swamplands or amethyst caverns that preceded it. The rest of El Deathly's squad decided to take this opportunity to get ahead instead of helping their vulnerable teammates, and scrounge the other rooms of the castle for any gear that could put them ahead of the other players that were sure to be lurking around the corner. Some like Jaden even managed to find some amazing loot in places like the ruined throne room, but not before being attacked by a ridiculous number of spiders. He was easily chased out of the castle and valiantly tried to defend himself, but was eventually bested due to the sheer amount of spiders, or so it seemed. It was now clear, however, that even lowly spiders like this could take over an entire well-armed kingdom, and El Deathly ordered his men to get out of the castle urgently due to the high probability of it being the source infestation site. El Deathly and his men weren't the only ones having a hard time in level 3, however. Players across this entire city of spiders were beginning to feel the effects of their toughest challenge yet, as this level was starting to weed out the weak so that only the strong remained. This meant that players' skill across the board was also starting to go up, which would lead to some extremely interesting moments in the coming levels. With diminishing numbers, El Deathly's group were now forced to continue exploring the rest of the city as they were running out of food and quick. As they exited the front gates of the castle, they immediately realized just how run down the rest of this old town was, with cobwebs everywhere and broken down wagons littering the streets. What they couldn't see, however, was a secret someone from earlier exploring the ruined buildings and carefully scouting for loot. WQZO was now completely on his own, and while his armor and weaponry were solid, he knew for a fact that if he was caught out now, he would suffer a terrible fate. It was a competition after all. Therefore, he decided to make a desperate sprint from the house he was exploring straight to the next level, as he deemed this current level to be too far gone to the spiders. As he was digging into the next layer, he heard the screams and wails of the other players, presumably being killed by spiders, and knew that he had made the right decision. Eventually, he made it to the very bottom of level 3 and was teleported straight to level 4, not knowing that someone was already waiting there for him. The player count was now beginning to massively dwindle as only 20 players remained in total, all competing for the top spot of this event. WQZO was one of them, and as he cautiously made his way through the top layers of Blackstone, he suddenly heard a faint voice call out to him.
I'm just asking who's this?
Avian.
Oh, it's Avian! Hey, what's good, man?
WQZO quickly mined through the Blackstone, blocking him and Avian, and shouted that he was there to help and that they could work together. But Avian wasn't having any of it, until WQZO decided to drop a potion of fire resist on the ground, inevitably persuading Avian that he was friendly. They both knew that other players would get to level 4 very soon, and they needed to hurry, and so they decided to get in their boats and travel down into the dwarven mines in search of stronger loot. The fire resist potions they both popped earlier massively helped, as they saw that the dwarves who built these mines had used lava and fire as a power source for all their machinery, making the location extremely dangerous to explore without adequate protection. Bad news was on the way though, as both Avian and WQZO spotted some newcomers to the mines far above them and knew they had to play this a bit more cautiously or else they would end up dead. El Deathly, along with his head henchman, Jaden from earlier, who was found to have narrowly escaped the onslaught from the spiders in level 3 by using a potion of invisibility, used their boats to get down down to the same level as WQZO and Avian. They thought they were alone, but as they kept exploring and looting the chests spread across this dwarven facility, they realized that a lot of the loot was already gone, which made them question whether others had made it there first. A lot of the other players in this race were also gathering towards the end of level 3 at this point, including the relatively unknown Cortero and Lydir, who had some of the best loot out there due to their rigorous exploration of earlier levels.
Yo, take this. I got a... Oh. Do you have protection too?
I'm gonna try to hit this.
Let's go back fast.
Both of their PvP skills were finally honed, which they showcased by easily killing hordes of cave spiders, which were twice as powerful as the regular spiders El Deathly squad was struggling with earlier. All in all, these guys were clearly a threat who wanted nothing more than to win the race and obtain the top secret prize, and thus they quickly made their way downwards towards level 4 in search of opposition to eliminate. WQZO and Avian had looted a lot of level 4 by this point and were carrying diamond armor and tools, which they planned on using to get to the next level before any other players could find and try to kill them. They were making amazing time and were in the lead of the entire race, but some other players clearly had more natural prowess in battle than them, like Cortero, meaning they could not take their lead for granted, or they could easily be overtaken. El Deathly was also hot in their trail and was trying to get to the next level as fast as possible too, which added another layer of intensity to the whole situation, especially seeing how close everyone was to the final prize. Loads of players from level 3 were also starting to flood into level 4 by this point, all with amazing gear and an intense thirst for victory, but WQZO and Avian were too far ahead, and eventually, after some speedy digging, stumbled upon another portal that led them straight to the final level. What horrors awaited them as they reached the deepest depths of this seemingly never-ending abyss? Time to find out. First unfortunate explorers to stumble upon level 5 were WQ and Avian, although at first all they could see were thick layers of netherrack. They were completely alone and isolated in a foreign environment that was nothing like what they had seen before, and all they could hear were faint screams echoing in the distance. For the first time in this event, they were truly terrified. They both decided to hatch a plan of finding an opening by tunneling in different directions, as they remembered back to the beginning of level 1 where a lot of their fellow players mistakenly dug only down and found themselves right at a dead end. Luckily, this approach eventually paid off as they managed to find an opening right above what seemed to be a gigantic castle with angry ghasts everywhere. They were about to get a small glimpse of what horror truly awaited them and anyone else who dare venture into these depths.
I am scared for my life, lad.
Other players were finally starting to make their way to the end of level 4, such as El Deathly and Jaden, who were very eager to finish this race in first place, which spelled trouble for WQ and Avian. These newcomers quickly moved through the top layers of hell itself and managed to find the same castle that WQ and Avian were currently exploring, leading to a tense confrontation.
Hey, Waizo, are you in good gear? Yes or no?
Yeah,
so what's your gear?
It's fairly good. Full enchanted, got some prop pieces.
Unexpectedly, the players were able to set aside their differences for the meantime, although caution was still in the air. On top of this, ghasts were increasingly starting to take a toll on all 4 of the players, which led to a hasty retreat, even with all their diamond armor and tools. The groups were now split and all 4 of the players ended up going in different directions in the hopes of drawing aggro from the mobs away. But after a short while of waiting in the walls, WQ and Avian regrouped and discussed their next plan. They both agreed that Deathly and Jaden were a threat to their success in this event and wanted to take them both out as quickly as possible. But before they could even try and relocate the duo, a massive horde of allies appeared, swarming the players with all their might.
Oh, there's Vexes. There's like 20. There's like 20 of them.
WQ and Avian were both quickly taken down to half a heart each and had to use all their remaining resources just to heal, whilst also being split up once again. El Deathly and Jaden were in no better a spot, however, as they were both ruthlessly being attacked by ghasts. Deathly was able to narrowly escape the onslaught with minimal food left over, whilst Jaden perished, showing just how dangerous this level truly was. To make things even worse for the lone Deathly at this point, as he was digging downwards trying to find any way into the next portal, the same ally blaze that tried to kill WQ and Avian descended directly upon him, almost killing him, but not quite. Deathly now found himself just above the void, teetering the brink between victory and defeat with no food left and broken gear. He soon realized, however, that he needed a netherite pickaxe which he did not yet have to dig into the void, meaning he had to go all the way back up to level 5 in search of loot. A new arrival had also made his way to level 5 by this point as well in Cortero, and he wanted to win this race like no one else so far. Everyone was looking for a netherite pickaxe by this point as they knew it was the key to unlocking the void, but in a tragic twist of fate, Avian was killed whilst exploring the ruins around Hell, and WQ was left all on his lonesome, just like his competition in Deathly and Cortero. Deathly was warily making his way back up through the bottom layers of Hell, whilst WQ scoured every inch of the main castle for netherite, and Cortero did the same. Eventually, Cortero and WQ met paths, and what at first seemed to be a scary interaction quickly became one of goodwill, as the two exchanged loot and advice.
Okay, here, I'll help you out. I'll give you that. And I'll give you that. Okay. Oh,
why that? Oh my, nah, I'm getting sick of this. I'm getting sick of this.
WQ decided to end the conversation by blocking Cortero off since he knew he couldn't trust anyone, even if he seemed like an unlikely ally at this time. His main goal at this point was trying to find any source of food or healing that he could, as he knew he would die soon without it. And just as he thought his efforts were failing, he stumbled upon a chest with food galore and even a golden apple to boot, meaning he was back in the race. By this point, more and more players were starting to stumble across level 5 such as Mellow and Tuna, and the stakes of this event were starting to skyrocket as everyone wanted to reach the void first. In a drastic stroke of luck, WQ was the first to find netherite in the heart of Hell's castle, although Mellow and Tuna managed to catch him in the act. At first, the duo wanted to kill him and eliminate their competition, but soon reconsidered after hearing that WQ had a proposition for them. He told them if he could use their smithing table to make a single netherite pickaxe, he would give them all his remaining golden apples, an offer too good to refuse.
This is going nowhere. Can I just use the smithing table? Please. No, it's all I ask.
Okay,
smithing
wait,
table.
You want to use it?
Smithing table.
Okay. Wait.
Okay, listen, we need it now. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. Smithing table. Somebody has entered the smithing layer. We have to get the smithing. Thank you.
Wasting absolutely no time, WQ started swiftly digging downwards and was eventually met with the same portal that Deathly had found earlier on. After being teleported to the top layer above the void, he was surprised to see that Cortero had already made it quite far into the outer obsidian shell that protected the void, and was told that he could either help him make it to the void or be killed in a matter of seconds.
Okay, listen to me, bro. I'm the one who gave you food.
Yeah, you are actually.
I could have killed you right there.
Yeah, you could have.
So like, I'm offering you a chance. I can come up there.
I was thinking you were somebody else.
Listen.
No, listen to me.
Either I come up there and kill you right now, or we both go down there at the same time.
No, very well.
Seeing no other option, WQ decided to help Cortero, although he knew he couldn't trust him, seeing as they were both so close to winning this race. There was now one final obstacle in the way of both of their victories, and this was 7 entire blocks of reinforced deep slate that would take entire minutes each to mine. They both immediately went to work on mining this final layer to the void, but due to the slow nature of mining these blocks, they were soon met with some unwanted visitors. 2 of the players that had made their way into level 5, Derp Joe and 1, had breached the top layer of the void and were beginning to make their way down to WQ and Cortero's location. Luckily, WQ had decided to block off where they came from with the obsidian he mined, which slowed down their pursuers considerably, but Cortero was ready to fight them off if need be. Just as WQ and Cortero thought they had everything under wraps, they realized that Derp Joe and 1 had heard them through proximity chat and were rapidly making progress towards them, now knowing that they would lose the entire event if they didn't act fast enough. Cortero was still mining as Joe and 1 were mere blocks away from breaching them, but the reinforced deep slate broke finally, and Cortero and WQ fell into the void just before a fight could break out. Cortero and WQ had finally made it to the Void as the final two participants in this event, and were surprised to find that they had fallen into a room with a throne in the middle and lava everywhere. At this point, it was clear that only one player could win this event and earn the secret prize everyone wanted, and so it was their fate to fight each other until their last breath. Both positioned themselves in the arena carefully and drank potions to buff up, but it was Cortero who made the first strike with one of his poison arrows straight to WQ's body. The battle was now on, and they both quickly proved they were experts at PvP with mossful tactics and a beautiful use of all the tools at their disposal. Lava buckets and cobwebs were being thrown down by Cortero to slow down WQ so that he could continue to maintain a good distance and fire off some more good shots with his bow. But he wasn't prepared for WQ to fight back full force with a ranged weapon of his own. WQ threw his secret trump card, a powerful trident, right at Cortero's head and connected, taking his HP down significantly. But just before WQ could capitalize, Cortero fired off another poison arrow right back and ran away to heal his wounds with the loss of what he had. Both players were evenly matched, but were starting to see their HP drop and resources quickly deplete as the other plunged their sword into their back. There was no one to save them now except themselves, as all their previous teammates had been lost to time. They battled ferociously, fully knowing that everything they had worked for until now would be for naught if they did not win. WQ thought he had Cortero beat as he started blocking himself off and showing other signs of weakness, which led him to pressing the assault. But in one final swing of events, Cortero struck back and twice as hard, looping around his blockade of webs and finishing WQ off with a swift blow to the back. Cortero was now the winner of this race and was crowned as King of the Void and let free to sit atop his throne and watch over the rest of the world. His prize was to rule over the realm for the rest of eternity, and he was given unimaginable treasures, clearly cementing himself as the fastest player Minecraft had ever seen.